So we'll talk about the Dolphins game. We'll talk about the Dolphins Jets. Dolphins falling 40-17 up in New York, and it was ugly. The very first offensive play, Teddy Bridgewater back up in for Tua after Tua went down last week. Teddy Bridgewater takes a shot to the ribs. What it appeared like to me was I thought it was a rib injury. Apparently, it was a head injury and an elbow injury, which makes sense. He landed on his elbow. I think the NFL is just going to overreact to anybody who hits their head, but especially overreact to any Dolphins players that hit their head. They had that investigation over the week, and the Dolphins were cleared of any wrongdoing, but they're going to overreact. They're going to pull somebody out rather than keep somebody in if it's close. And we saw that Teddy Bridgewater plays one offensive snap. It's called for offensive or not offense. It's called for intentional grounding in the end zone, which made absolutely no sense to me. Teddy Bridgewater is throwing the ball. He's getting hit. Clearly, that's part of the injury. He got hit as he's throwing the ball. Durham Smythe is right there and it's called for intentional grounding. I don't understand it. But start the game off 2-0 and to lose your starting quarterback for the week after the first play is very difficult. Skylar Thompson comes in 19 up 33, 166 yards, an interception. Also had a fumble. Raheem Mostert, finally we see the ground game pick of 113 yards and a touchdown. But the passing game really wasn't there. Tyreek Hill, 7 catches, 47 yards, leading the way. We finally saw Myles Gaskin appearance. Myles Gaskin got 4 carries, matter of fact, for 9 yards, and Chase Edmonds only had a singular yard on the day. The passing game, just again, nothing was there. Gesicki had a catch for 30 yards. Gaskin had 3 catches for 24 yards. We saw him come in towards the end of the game and get that. Jalen Waddle, 3 catches, 23 yards. Nothing really going there on offense for the Dolphins. Zach Wilson had an all right game, 14-21, 210 yards, got in the end zone, rushing the ball. Breece Hall, 18 carries, 97 yards, and a touchdown, also led the way in the receiving game with that long 79-yard catch, 2 catches, 100 yards. So I know it's going to be very easy to sit here and make excuses, and I'm going to. I think calling excuses is unfair. You lose your starting quarterback the week prior. You're starting your backup, somebody who lost the starting job pretty much everywhere he's gone, was shipped out eventually pretty much everywhere he's gone. As much as we like to give Teddy Bridgewater some credit, and he's a good dude, local guy from down here, he's not really a starter in this league. And then you have Skylar Thompson coming in the game. 7th round rookie, absolutely balled out in the preseason, and we really think highly of him because of that, and maybe he has a future as a backup, and we'll see where his ceiling is for the years to come. But Skylar Thompson was never meant to come in and play an entire game like he did yesterday. And then, also early on in the first quarter, Teron Armstead goes down. You're already without Austin Jackson, who's on the IR, so now you're missing your 2 starting tackles on an already bad offensive line. What do you expect with a bad offensive line, missing their 2 best tackles, missing their 2 best quarterbacks? Now has to go out there and try to put stuff together. They could not move the ball. And then you look on the other side with the defense. We know X was out. We know Byron Jones is still out. We know Melvin Ingram hasn't practiced all year long. This is a really beat up team, and it obviously doesn't feel good to sit here and be making all these excuses. But it's true. Now, the Jets performed well, and the Jets, you can only play who's in front of you. That old mantra is true. You can only play who's in front of you, and the Jets did a great job of moving the ball consistently on the Dolphins. Breece Hall, again, had himself a great game. 197 total all scrimmage yards. Outside of him, he really was the entire offense for the Jets yesterday. Outside of him, their next best wide receiver, Corey Davis, 2 catches, 38 yards. The next best running back, 10 carries, 21 yards, 2 touchdowns for Michael Carter. But the offense was so strictly driven through Breece Hall, and it worked. They did what they had to do, and this scoreline was vastly blown out of proportion, 40-17. Going into the fourth quarter, it was a 19-17 game. So this 40-17 doesn't paint the picture of what this game was. What this game was the Jets rightfully won. They performed better than us. They had the better players on the field. But we all can sit here. We can all sit here, and if we're being honest with ourselves, if Tua plays, if Armstead plays, if X plays, not even if Byron plays, not even if Tyreek and Jalen are 100%, If those three guys play, we know the Dolphins come out of there with a win. They didn't. I know. Shut up. I get it. It didn't happen. So blah blah blah. And trust me, I am the biggest. Don't live in the land of what ifs. You can what if to yourself to death about anything, and I am doing it right here. If the Dolphins had Tua, had Teron Armstead, not even Austin Jackson, if they had Teron Armstead, if they had X, I believe the Dolphins walk out of there with a victory. Tua, say what you want about him. Tua wins games. Tua has about a 70% win percentage with this team, with a coach that didn't support him, with 4 offensive coordinators in 3 seasons, with a terrible offensive line. Tua wins games. We see other quarterbacks step in, other starting quarterbacks since Tua was handed the keys. Other quarterbacks have gone 2-6 for the Miami Dolphins. Tua is a good quarterback for what he's asked to do. He's not asked to be Josh Allen. He's not asked to be Lamar Jackson, who saw absolutely explode yesterday and has done so all season long. He doesn't have the God-given athletic ability those two have. He doesn't have the arm that Patrick Mahomes has, that Justin Herbert has. What Tua is asked to do is be a distributor. Somebody else who's asked to be a distributor, who I'll talk about later on the show, Jimmy Garoppolo. 49ers in a very good position right now with Jimmy Garoppolo as opposed to Trey Lance. And I like the 49ers as a potential Super Bowl team. When Tua comes back to this team, hopefully he comes back against the Vikings this week, because the Vikings are looking sharp. Struggled to close it out against the Bears yesterday, but they won. That's kind of what you expect from Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is not an elite quarterback. Goes 17 of 17 to start off the game. Justin Jefferson has 10 catches over 100 yards in the first half alone. Dalvin Cook got 2 touchdowns. But there are some limitations, and a lot of that is because of Kirk Cousins, but they're still a very good team. And without Tua, I'd say the Vikings are favored next week. With Tua, that does change. That does change. And Tua is now getting even a little bit even more respect, because we've seen this team with him and we've seen this team without him. We know what he's not. And we know what he's not, so why do we keep comparing him to Patrick Mahomes? Why do we keep comparing him to Josh Allen? We know he's not that. Now, maybe there's some delusional Dolphins fans out there that are going to try to act like he is and act like he's the best quarterback in the league. But we know he's not that. We know he's not a top 10 quarterback yet. He's a top 5 quarterback this season. Just on this season alone, he's been a top 5 quarterback, and I think that's fair to say. But Tua is not a top 10 quarterback. Overall, you can definitely name 10 guys more than him. And when you do have to pay him, kind of like how the Cowboys with Dak Prescott, it might become an issue, because I don't expect him to just take a hometown discount, especially with how the organization has treated him. So once we get to that stage, okay, we'll have a separate conversation as to whether he's worth giving a long-term contract to and what the figure should be for the long-term contract. But for the now, under his rookie deal, Tua is a quarterback that can win games, can get Tua to the playoffs, and he was here for the game yesterday against the Jets. I think Tua walks away with the victory. I think the Dolphins walk away with the victory. You guys don't want to hear it. You don't want to hear Tua hasn't been the problem. You don't want to hear that the Dolphins should look to build around him, that the Dolphins should look to try to not replace him. But Tua gets things done. Tua wins games. He's not flashy. He's not controversial in the media. He walks up to the podium with a smile, sometimes a little attitude, but even then he says it with a smile. The most mad that we've seen him be is when it was leaked that he got married a couple months ago. That was the only time you really seen him anything but positive at the microphone. When the Dolphins were trying to replace him with Deshaun Watson, with Tom Brady, with all the other rumors, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, with all those rumors were circling about, what did Tua do? Win games. Went 8-1 last year. Down the stretch, lost that important game against Tennessee. But he's won more games than he's lost. He doesn't make a lot of bad decisions. Up to this point in the season, he's beat Josh Allen, he's beat Lamar Jackson, he's beaten the Patriots. If he's done that on the road against the Ravens. We saw how the Ravens competed yesterday against the Bengals. If he's done that against those teams, we know what he's doing to the Jets. And I imagine week 18 now, down here in Miami, things go a little better for the Miami Dolphins. But the Miami Dolphins do lose 40-17 against the New York Jets. Got to take that one on the chin, take one on the shoulder, scrap the film, walk away. that truly is to me a scrap the film game because it is just such an anomaly. The amount of injuries out there, a lot of guys that are they're guarding number one receivers. You have Eric Rowe out on the fields who lets up that big play to Brees Hall. I don't want him in the game that much, to be honest. But the Dolphins lose, take it on the chin, walk away next week to the Minnesota Vikings down here in Miami. Your boy's going to be there, hoping for a lot better of a result this time next week.